Sunday afternoon Jim Ferguson show. And Irene, you were mentioning something in Jerry Lightsell's newscast.
Yes, I started to say that the police officer on that rape case in Florida said that wasn't justice. It was crime. Well, I believe that the law should be updated. It's about time the victim got some protection from the laws instead of the rapist.
But, of course, laws in America are normally decided, justice is decided in a court and not on the street.
That's true, but the way the law is standing out today, the criminal has more protection than most of the victims.
Yeah, I think a lot of law enforcement people have talked about perhaps the point that we're bending over so far backwards to give the accused the benefit of the doubt that we're actually, not enforcing the laws that we have now.
I don't think it just goes for rapist. It goes for any kind of a criminal. The laws are so in protection of the criminal that he can really do anything he wants to do, and he knows that in 6 months or a year he's going to be back on the streets to do it again.
Yeah.
This is even true for murderers.
We you used to see in the old Western movies, right? At the trial, the judge with a spittoon there did his number, and he said, "I find you guilty." That was it. You didn't see a cowboy saying, "Your Honor, I appeal this case on the," that was the decision was rendered and was carried out. There was no appeal, Now, in part of the problem with our court system that it is so backlogged is that almost every decision that is made is appealed, and maybe we have 5 or 6 court sessions from that one case instead of what used to be the one decision that the judge initially made. So that's a problem as far as the court system and the backlog, and why that maybe we have a case lingering on in courts for 5 years maybe.
That's true. But getting back to this case down in Florida, it goes true for any place. If a man is accused of rape, the victim is the one whose past is exposed in court, and not the criminal. And he comes out smelling like a rose, and the victim looks like the criminal. And I think that these laws should be changed.
Right. Now, again, though, it depends on what side you're on, Now, if your husband, say, were accused of rape, and, you would know that would not be true, then I think you would probably appreciate the way the system works, and that the character of the accused in a case like that is also extremely important. Now, I know that a lot of times that perhaps the accused is taken advantage of in court, because of that. Like you said, her past is dug up, and so it's a problem. But I think that probably we would want to be as fair as possible, and as right, trying to assemble the facts as possible.
There's another point of the law that doesn't seem hardly fair to justice. It states that, I believe in some states, a rape has to be witnessed. Well, a man just isn't going to rape a woman if there's a possibility that somebody's going to see him.
Right, I wasn't familiar with that. What state has that, do you know?
Oh, gee, I don't know. I have heard of it in some states, but I don't really know which ones they are. I know I have heard that in Kentucky, it's on the books that if a woman gets into a car with a man and rape is an outcome of it, that she can't accuse him of rape.
You mean if she voluntarily enters the car?
if she voluntarily enters the car for a ride or something of that sort, and he ends up raping her, she cannot prosecute him for it.
That's, again, something I'm unfamiliar with. Perhaps some of our listeners may have, additional information on that. I don't know. I've never heard of that. I would think that rape is rape, whatever. But I think that, well, we have in Louisville recently instituted, let's see, I don't want to go overboard on this, but I know there has been some modifications in the rape procedures, investigative procedures from the police department.
I think they're making real progress in a lot of the major cities through the country. I've read articles that they are helping women through this crisis more than they ever did before, and realizing what an effect it can have on women.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is good. I think it's time that somebody starts standing up for the victim instead of the one that perpetrates the crime against the victim. We've got a long way to go yet, though, in this country before we wipe it out. It's on the increase. And any news stories I've heard, that the incident of rape is up a lot more than in past years.
One would think with the, as other people have said, our modern lifestyle, being more permissive than ever before, that would be on the decrease. Sort of paradox. Well, Irene, thank you for calling. We'll float it out, see what kind of response we get.
All right, thank you very much.
Thanks for calling.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We have a copy now of that story that came out of, what we said Miami, I believe, earlier. It was really Daytona Beach. And I'll read that for you, and then we have another release from Raleigh. And police in Daytona Beach say 6 women described as vigilantes armed themselves with knives and slashed an accused rapist before he could be arrested. The woman's victim, 20-year-old John Dotson, is reportedly in satisfactory condition at a local hospital after being placed under police guard. Authorities say none of the 6 women have been arrested and refuse to give any information about their investigation of the incident. Police say Dotson was working in his front yard Friday afternoon when the 6 women attacked him. Earlier, a Daytona Beach woman had filed a complaint against Dotson for rape. He was later charged with sexual battery. And another rape case at the moment in news from Raleigh, North Carolina. The task of selecting the final 4 jurors to hear the Joan Little murder case begins tomorrow. Testimony probably to start by midweek. Miss Little, a 21-year-old black, is on trial in Raleigh, North Carolina for the slaying of a white jailer. Miss Little claims that the jailer, Clarence Allgood, tried to rape her, and she acted in self-defense. So there we have it. And we were talking with Irene just a little earlier this afternoon on the comment line about the ability of rape trials not to seem to be swift and sure as the arm of justice is supposed to be. Sharon, you had a comment on a rape subject?
Yes, sir, I did. A while ago, I heard you mention, what if it was your husband that had been charged? What if it was your wife, the one that had been raped? And say you and she had had sex relations before you were married, and maybe there had been someone else. Well, if they brought that up in court, they think, well, she slept with him and she slept with this other guy. Why should we convict him of rape when he, forcibly forced her into the sex act?
Well, I think the criteria for evaluation of whether rape had been committed is force. Regardless of if they'd known each other or not. I don't think that would be the criteria. I think the force would be the point.
But she would really have no way of proving it, just her word.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, and I think perhaps that's what happens in many rape cases. It becomes one person's word against the other, plus perhaps whatever medical evidence, whatever that's about. I'm not sure in my mind what they do there.
Yeah.
But in a normal rape case, what else would there be, excluding perhaps off-chance witnesses?
Yeah, but so many times they wouldn't come forward and testify.
Well, that's true. That's true. It, it seems to me, though, that rape would come under, and we have all the civil rights thing, where we're talking about excluding somebody, like the Klan meeting that was in Louisville, and they were talking about perhaps violation of civil rights. They're excluding people from coming to that meeting. It looks like rape would be even a more graphic illustration of a violation of someone's rights. You have the right to or the right not to, and the consequences of rape would be far more devastating emotionally than being excluded perhaps from attending a meeting or whatever. But it's a highly emotional thing, a volatile crime that who knows? Do you think it's being dealt with fairly or accurately?
No, I don't, but I wouldn't know what to tell them how to do it. Because it's a very personal, each person needs to be dealt with individually, not just you do this and you do that, just set rules. It's not possible.
Well, there's a dilemma that the female has to decide at that point as to whether, to resist or what, And that's got to be a heavy decision,
Well, so many times when they even take them to court, they're off, and then they go rape somebody else, and then they get off for that, too. That's what makes me so mad. Perhaps
it would be a matter of absolute evidence, I don't know if lie detector, the CIA is big on lie detector tests. I don't know if...
Well, that's not foolproof, though.
No.
And he's sure not going to rape you where everybody in the world can see it, that's for sure, so... I don't know. Well, that's really all I'm...
Right. Well, it's an interesting point, and I think, regardless of whether you are the accused rapist or the rapee, justice has got to be done.
Something does.
Right. Okay, thank you very much, Sharon.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye. Did you have a comment on the rape subject?
Sure.
Okay. May I have your first name? Your first name, please, sir.
Hello.
Yes, your first name, please.
John.
John. Okay, John, go ahead.
There's only one way to stop this, and that is capital punishment.
You think to reinstitute capital punishment as a crime for rape?
That's the only way. I wrote the Supreme Court last week. I wrote the President the week before, and I wrote the Governor this last week. This thing of letting these guys go and rape a little girl and get by with it and don't punish them. In fact, they ought to make the punishment meet all these crimes. The only way to stop crime is punish the guy. They wouldn't have to kill but one or two of them, and with a little publicity in the paper, it would stop this thing. You see what happened now to Saudi Arabia? They just cut the guy's head off. They won't have any more assassinations out there. And until we put these laws back into effect, the crime's going to continue to increase.
Well, if we're talking about an individual that is mentally disturbed to commit murder or rape, then if he is, depending on what point he is mentally disturbed, the point of rationale about should I do this or will I be punished really doesn't come into play. If he is beyond rationability, he doesn't think like that.
If he's got sense enough to rape a little girl, he's got sense enough to be punished. I have a close friend was a nurse at the general hospital, and she has seen a little girl that had been raped, and she said if anybody ever saw anything like that, they wouldn't wonder about what kind of punishment to give them, because lots of times it affects their mind,
Yeah.
That's the only solution I see for it, and I've written everybody I know to write to, and this Supreme Court is just delaying this decision up there. Those old men don't know what they're doing anyway.
John, could I ask you, I'm just curious, you mentioned work in that area, writing the president, and could I ask you what your interest had been prior to that? Had there been something personal in your life?
Well, a very close friend was raped out on here in Belgravia Court by a black youth about 17. And then you see it, you hear of it happening every day, and nothing done about it. If they got a little money, why they get out of it. And there's only one way that if they punish them and do a little publicity, put a little publicity in the newspaper, you won't have to kill but one or two of them, and they'll stop it or at least slow it down anyway. The same way with bank robbery. We're having about 2 bank robberies a week here in Louisville. And what do they do about it? They got any money, they get out of it. Half of them they don't catch. I know how the banks can afford to carry it.
Very good, John. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Yes, by far the most severe after effect of rape would be the emotional standpoint of the female, and then not only in that time, but at that specific time comes the court case. So maybe perhaps she's not mentally able to go through that. Did you have a comment on our rape subject?
Okay, may I have your first name, please?
Catherine.
Catherine, okay.
I think, just like the man just said, if they would have capital punishment for that, then they'd be more or less reduced, if not stopped, reduced. Now, talk about the mentally ill, if they're mentally ill. All right, they put them in a mental hospital and let them out. This man in
Let's not deal in specifics if we can.
Anyway, there was a certain person, and he was in 15 years, off and on. They let him out. He raped the little girl and killed her. So they shouldn't let them out. If they are disturbed in their mind in that way, then they should never be let out of a mental hospital or jail or whatever. And I just think that there's no need for people to have to be scared to death to go on the street, because that's one of our rights given to us, is that we should be allowed to go on the street.
Right.
And you're afraid to go out nowadays. You're afraid to stay at home. They come in your home and do it.
Well, perhaps, you were talking about the mental situation with
Well, either one. I mean, if it's meanness or if it's mental. But if it's mental, they should be kept in and shouldn't be left out. If it's meanness, then they should string them up.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, besides Kathleen, string them up.
That's right.
Okay, I've got it noted.
Okay.
Very good. Thank you for calling.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Topic on the comment line, rape.
Dennis, you had a thought?
Yes. I was just sitting here thinking about that. They're really trying to condemn these young ladies for taking revenge on this fellow down in Florida. But I'm wondering if this will kind of field notice to the authorities, the police authorities, that maybe it's just as severe when one fella does it to a girl versus 4 or 5 girls doing it to one fella. The men have been in the chauvinistic situation of police officers for a long time, and actually the girl really has to prove innocence in order to be exonerated from it. But with the shoe on the other foot, I'm wondering if they may act more in the girl's behalf in the future as they have in the past.
Right. Well, what we have, hopefully, is a radical, situation here. Hopefully, it does not become commonplace. And I think usually you can look at radical movements or radical happenings as perhaps the government being unresponsive to people's needs. Over a long period of time, frustrations build up, and then people decide that things are moving too slowly and that they're going to do it themselves. And then you have, things like that happening.
Well, like this is just one case in Florida, right? In Miami, I think you said?
I think that was Daytona Beach. I said Miami, but it was Daytona.
Okay. Well, not only did I used to live in Daytona, but the thing is, one case where the shoe's been on the other foot, and it's getting national wire and print. And yet, how many girls are getting raped daily without any print at all?
That's true.
And it may open the eyes of the police enforcement to figure that maybe when these girls tell them, hey, I have been raped, maybe they'll take it more into a tone, because I'm sure that with women's lib, if things don't go more in her favor with rape, I can foresee a lot of girls banding together that maybe find out that the same fella raped him and jumping this guy and really cleaning his clock like they did in Daytona Beach. I kind of think it may open their eyes. At least I hope so anyway. I don't know whether it will or not, you know.
And the other aspect of it is how many rape cases are not reported simply because the female doesn't want to have to go through what she has to go through in order to prosecute the case or have the case prosecuted.
Yeah, with everything that's been in the paper and like on the television with the cases where the girl is really, to my way of thinking, shot down before she actually proves that she is innocent and the guy is almost totally free. I just don't, I think that, at least I'm hoping that this will kind of open their eyes up, because I think it's probably a worse experience for a girl than we men tend to believe at times, and now that 4 or 5 of them that it would take to jump one fella are getting revenge. I think, at least I hope it'll open up their eyes in the future. I don't know.
Right. Dennis, thank you very much.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Barbara, did you have a comment?
Yes, I did. I was listening to these people who suggested capital punishment for the crime of rape. Well, I don't agree with that. Not so long ago, England was having capital punishment for pickpockets. They have a public hanging. Well, that was the favorite place for the pickpockets to gather, and they all picked the pockets of the people who watched the pickpockets get hanged. So that's not necessarily, capital punishment is not necessarily the final thing. I mean, well, like a month ago in Louisville Times, on the front cover of the scene, they had this model, and she was a very good-looking model, walking down the street, and they were taking pictures of her, and they had that on the cover of the newspaper. Well, the expressions of the men behind her weren't exactly of disinterest. I would say that the difference between the men who were interested in this woman and the men or women, kind of hard to rape a man, I guess, but the men who were looking at this woman and the men who rape women would be a matter of self-discipline. Because there's a lot of men who walk down the street and they think, oh, look at that good-looking girl across the street, and maybe in their mind they're imagining committing the act of rape to this, well, not necessarily rape, but the sex act in their mind, and the only reason why they don't do it to that woman or to another woman they see walking down the street is perhaps self-discipline. I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything,
right,
but that's just logic, you know.
Right. Well, the only thing that makes you what you are is what you think.
Yeah.
You know, and so that's the only difference I would think between a rapist and a non-rapist is, you know, what they think about it,
yeah, how
they feel about it. So, you know, you're not talking about a guy that's got a big foot, you know, a little toe or anything like that. It's, you know, it's all in your mind how you think about it. So that's the only differentiation between a rapist and a non-rapist. I don't know. I would think that there's another thing, too, that perhaps if capital punishment were put back as the punishment for rape, that perhaps the rapist might decide to leave, you know, no witnesses, you know.
And you're going to murder.
Right. And so, I don't know. I really don't. How do you think rape cases are being handled? Do you think they're being handled adequately in Louisville? Do you know?
I don't know. I never had any experience, you know, with friends or anything like that. So I couldn't pass judgment on that.
Mm-hmm. If you were raped, would you report it?
No, I don't. I think I would be too embarrassed to report it. Too embarrassed to sit up in the witness stand and sit there and say everything.
Mm-hmm.
I would just be too humiliated and embarrassed to do it.
Very good. So then we have something, in order to prosecute someone, we have to suffer a great deal in just getting the facts out. And maybe we've created something that's an impossible situation because the plaintiff does not want to prosecute because of the mental anguish that she would have to endure in doing so.
Yeah.
That's not right. That's not right. Barbara, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Our comment line subject matter, rape
Linda, did you have a comment?
Yes, I'd like to comment on the young lady who spoke before. She said she didn't think she would report it if she were to be raped.
Right.
And I think this is very important in stopping these kind of things happening, is to report them right away.
Right.
And be aware that these things do happen and try to protect yourself from them happening.
Sometimes perhaps people don't know what their limits are, and that this could be emotionally untenable or unable to handle it emotionally and know it.
That's true. And sometimes I think knowing that the man or young man who's done this thing to you has been prosecuted, I think helps sometimes in the mental anguish they go through just knowing that they're paying for the crime they've done.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is very important, to report any rape that's been done and report it right away. The sooner it's reported, the better chance there is that the person will be prosecuted for what he's done.
Right. You would then?
I certainly would.
Mm-hmm. And you would have no qualms about going into a jury situation?
No, I don't think so. I think that I would be so mad. Maybe, I don't know how actually I would feel if this would happen, but right now I think that I would be so mad. I'd want to see this man, prosecuted for what he had done to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if this were done more often, that if more of them were reported, that maybe it would help stop some of them.
Very good, Linda. Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Comment line subject, rape. Shirley, did you have thoughts?
Yes. First of all, I wanted to say I don't believe in capital punishment or anything. But I think if someone is convicted of rape, I think they should be rehabilitated, or at least they should, because I think it's a sickness no matter who does it.
Right.
One lady called it a meanness. Well, to me, I think they're sick in order to be mean, and I think that society has made them that way. And I think I feel a little bit responsible because I am part of this society, so I think that they should be rehabilitated.
Mm-hmm. Of course, we get into the whole thing. We talk about rehabilitation, whether it's a criminal act or a medical problem, and in rehabilitation, I from statistics that I've seen, our rehabilitative efforts in prison systems have not really worked.
Yeah, so
it's not really a case of rehabilitation when a person is in prison. It's just incarceration.
Then we have to work on our prisons then.
Right.
So that's about all I wanted to say. I just felt like I should say that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Shirley. Bye-bye. Your thoughts on our subject, rape, Rose?
Well, first of all, I'd like to make a comment from two angles.
Okay.
I am a woman, very much a woman. I am not an old fuddy-duddy.
Mm-hmm.
I like the latest styles in clothes, but I go into the supermarkets in the suburbs, and the other day I was down in the city of Louisville, and I could not believe how some women go on the streets dressed. Of course, they say that no woman, no matter what she wears, should be subject to rape. But I do feel that a lot of people don't leave a lot hidden.
Right. Do you think some women, the way they dress, are contributory to rape?
I certainly do. Now, I feel that there should be punishment for rape. I don't feel that there's a punishment good enough to rape a child.
Mm-hmm.
And I also feel that, for instance, if this unfortunate thing were to happen to me, I would have to go out and get my own lawyer at my expense. So many we read about today, whether it be rape or whatever, is provided a free lawyer, mind you, the best in the city.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that anyone who goes out thinking this way thinks, oh, well, if I get caught, what am I going to lose?
You mean the rapist?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And I do not feel, I don't care what they do, that they should be given a free lawyer. For instance, when my husband died a few years ago, I paid an attorney several $1,000s to settle this for me. I had this to do. And within a month, 2 policemen were brutally slain in Louisville. And eventually the court appointed this lawyer that I had paid several $1,000s to settle my husband's estate. They gave the services of this very same man to one of those who supposedly did this. And I don't think this is fair. I think they should have to pay their own way.
Mm-hmm. So you would be against court-appointed attorneys for defense?
Definitely.
What about the prosecutor who was serving, in the prosecution case as a public official?
Of course, he hears both sides, right?
But he is primarily concerned with prosecution.
Right. I just feel that if I have to pay a lawyer to support me because I have been raped or my child has, that they should have to do the same thing. I don't care where they live. I don't care what their income is, whatever. Yeah.
Normally, though, in a legal proceeding, it would be the prosecutor who would handle your case as opposed to you seeking a private attorney. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, well, this I don't know, but I know in so many...
It's not really a civil case. It's a police case, a legal proceeding.
Right.
As opposed to a civil case.
Right. Well, I still feel that women could watch their dress.
Mm-hmm. Really? Okay, yeah, but the whole society is on being beautiful, right? Right. Today, the whole thing in society is that men and women should be beautiful people.
That's right. Be natural. But you don't have to be nude to be beautiful, you know? You can dress nice, be conservative, you know?
Yeah.
In your dress. Now, I don't mean go around with ruffles down to the ground. I don't do this, you know?
Yeah.
And I like to wear the latest styles and this, that, and the other. But I do really feel, even at the ballpark and the supermarkets, I see women, I think, I can't believe this. It's worse this year than it was last. It's getting worse all the time. I think when you walk the streets with very little on, you're saying, look at me, you know?
Mm-hmm. But that's what a good deal of society was saying with our dress, in general, not just women, but everything, What would you consider to be over-enticement in dress?
Okay. I have seen just in the last month women in supermarkets in line with halters on with nothing underneath. There was nothing you couldn't see. And I think this is wrong. I think this is too extreme. You see them downtown. I saw one downtown day before yesterday. Just a strip across the top. Nothing underneath. That's it.
But isn't that a common mode of attire?
Well, it's getting more so. And there's also getting more rape.
And you think
I'm saying this is what's causing it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying that I want to dress the latest, and my weakness is clothes.
Yeah.
But I don't want to say to everybody that's standing on the corner looking for a stray woman, you know?
Right.
Well, there's an obvious one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Jim Ferguson Show for a Sunday afternoon. Our comment line subject, rape.
Rose, your thoughts?
Okay, I have been listening to some of those ladies, and I was involved in an attempted rape.
Mm-hmm.
Someone broke into my apartment while I was in it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a quite strong person, and I fought my way through, and the man was trying to choke me. I was screaming, and he told me that he would kill me unless I quit. And he was trying to put a pillow over my face, and it slipped, and I got his hand in my face and bit the daylights out of it. In fact, it was bleeding when he was leaving.
Mm-hmm.
And it did not come to the rape. And he was, I made him leave the apartment. But I know one thing. I mean, I don't really believe in capital punishment, but if this should happen again, there will be capital punishment in my apartment. I really mean it. Right now, I am prepared for the case. I had identified the person to the police. I had seen the man about a month later in a car. It took the police 3 days before they made an arrest.
Mm-hmm.
Then, the man was being let out. You know, he was arrested. They kept him overnight, and he was being let out on bail. Okay, this boy is 19 years old. I am 35. I am divorced. And I really was so very angry about it all, and I thought I'm going to follow through with the court and everything. But as it ended up, well, they were trying to get him for breaking and entering. Nothing was stolen. They couldn't really get him on rape.
Not even attempted rape?
Well, they could get him on attempted rape, which would probably be a suspended sentence, is what it ended up to be. And I would have made a complete scandal. I am a teller in a bank, and I could not really afford a scandal. Being divorced, people would say,
Right.
In fact, you had to bite his hand to get him into the apartment, yes or no. You know, did you bite his hand? I mean, I have watched Kojak and Barry Mason really know what's going on.
But there's a certain protocol that a young lady has to go through when she's raped.
Yeah, that's right.
She can't do nothing, because then, you know, it's not for sure that it was rape. So she has to resist to a certain point, or continue to resist.
Right.
You know, it's just, it's the code of the road.
Yeah, but you know, like in my case, okay, I fought the guy off, but I thought, my idea was, he slapped me around. I had a swollen jaw and a busted lip and so forth, but he was bleeding. I guess I must have bit so hard. He told me, in fact, if I was not turning loose, he would kill me, but I knew in a way he couldn't kill me with one hand. And, I wouldn't turn loose of that hand until he was at the door. It was, right now, when I think about it, it's quite humorous. But you know, the thing is, though, I called the police immediately, just for one reason. This man knew that I have called the police.
Right.
I mean, for him to come back on it, you know, that I was not chicken enough for that. You know,
right.
Otherwise I would have been afraid that he might show up again. And I live on a downstairs base. My bedroom door goes all the way out to the backyard. And I had seen this man come in, but for some reason I did not turn my back toward him. In fact, I got out of my bed and turned on the big light and asked him what he wanted. And that, of course, he told me. I thought, well, stupid me, why should I ask? You know?
Rose, I tell you, you're one in a million. I think you handle it beautifully. Some women, you know, may not be in that much control at that particular point.
Yeah, but you'd be amazed what strength you will have during that time. I mean, afterwards I broke down and cried. And but right now, I have a bottle of maize right on my nightstand, and I have more locks in my building. I mean, if I want to get some fresh air, I have to get a key to unlock my window. You know, really, I am prepared now for the case. I really am.
It's like when you realize when you finally get prepared, it'll never happen, right?
Well, I never thought it would happen to me in the first place.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people where, you know, I live in a protected town. Of course, our whole police department is more like Mayberry RFD.
Come on, Rose, come on.
I'm not kidding you. Really, I thought when I seen this man, I thought the police should take immediate action.
Yeah.
I thought I might have to make the arrest myself. I'm not kidding. In fact, I mean, I have only one fear. This man's suspended sentence is just about up. And I think I have faced him since that in our town here. And, I mean, the thing was, I did not want to go to court. I chickened out on it, you know, was just settled out of court because I knew nothing would really happen. All I would do is ruin my reputation in front of everybody.
Right.
And I could not afford the scandal. But the thing is, I have the revenge in mind because it does something mentally to you. This happened approximately a year ago. And I know it just does something mentally to you. It really does. Even so, it did not come to the point. It's just a scare you would have. I mean, like, for instance, I couldn't scream. I made a sound like a retarded person would make. You know, it was not a scream at first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just the fear of it. And I thought, well, I can't identify him. I see him in the bright light. You know, I thought he might go ahead and try to do something to me or my son. In fact, my son was sleeping in the room next door and did not, well, it takes him a while to get up. And I thought, well, on breaking and entering, they couldn't have just gotten him on that because this man was for 5 minutes at my apartment, right?
Right.
There has to be some kind of explanation. And I think the police is sort of protecting the man who is doing something like that. Now, this man has tried this, but what would happen to him? He can try it over and over again.
Right. Well, we talked about that perhaps in our desire to protect the innocent, that sometimes we go so far in the opposite extreme that we really don't prosecute the guilty. Rose, thank you very much for calling.
You're welcome.